Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm going to be reacting to Conversation J. Lakhani on free will, cults, gurus, reincarnation, etc. The link to the video will be in the description below if you want to watch it uncut. I will always interrupt videos because if you want to watch this without me talking, you have to go to their channel. Anyways, I'm interested to hear what Lakhani has to say about free wills. I mean, gurus, I think I've heard, reincarnation, I think I've heard, but free wills is quite interesting, and also to listen to the rest of what he has to say. Let's go ahead and get started.
Yes. All right, Namaskar, Jay Lakhani ji. It's absolutely an honor to see you again, and I look forward to the day where I can see you in person as well when I come to London. And so we'll go ahead and get started with the conversation. And there's a few things that I had in mind that I wanted to discuss with you. And perhaps we'll start with the basic question of individualism versus collectivism. So in the West, individualism is the main thing that is enforced, if you will, culturally. And then there's other cultures in Asia that are much more collectivist, right? So in Hinduism, is there a balance between the two? Because if there's oneness, if there's unity, then there is a collectivism that's in play. And yet we seem to be individuals with autonomy and dreams and goals and aspirations and mukti in mind, some of us. So how do we balance these two?
Okay. So yes, I do believe I do sense this too, and I think most people may know if they experience a Westerner. And mind you, a Westerner is not white person. You come to America, every country is practically a Westerner over here. But yes, but there is kind of a little bit of a division from between the left and the right. The left tends to be a bit more groupthink, whereas the right tends to be a bit more individual think. But generally speaking, yes, the West, as far as I could tell, is well, in America, is individual rights instead of, like, say, group rights, where a group right will not impose the rights on an individual, but an individual right will have, in a sense, more rights than a group, because an individual right will automatically protect a group right. So, but yeah, anyways, and this is another thing, is the fact that like you were saying about the East, I think I see this more along the lines of Japan. And whenever, again, in the past, about 2018, we were researching about, if we were to go out and visit a country that me and a friend wanted to agree on, which was Japan. I did notice that a lot of people explaining the culture over there, which was they considered others before themselves. So, which is very interesting, because in America, it's more of, you think of yourself in a sense over others, but it's not always true. You have this individuality, but depending on where you're at in the country, they have where they consider others over themselves as well. Maybe not as strong as in the East. But yeah, and obviously the answer has to be somewhere in the middle, where you have to, of course, think of your individual self, that you think of other people, but do not be taken advantage of. So that, I do believe, being the balance, where you consider other people, you try to accommodate them, but not to the point where you're harming yourself, not where it's becoming a burden. I'm not sure the right word, but where it's not causing you too much discomfort, pain, burden, cost. There's a word in there that's right. It's just, as long as it's not making your life terrible in a way. Those words are a bit extreme, but yes.
Well, frankly, as expected, you always ask very, very interesting and very philosophically oriented questions. This is a wonderful question to explore. You see, the living kingdom, the way the living kingdom is started is, in a way,
starting from the animal kingdom into the human kingdom. And at the animal level, we develop individuality, otherwise we can't survive. We require to coordinate our faculties to survive, eat, drink, and take care of ourselves. And this particular faculty, if you like, this individualism or the ego, stays with us in the human kingdom, understandably. So this is a natural journey of evolution, starting from individualism. Nothing wrong with it. This is the only way you can coordinate your faculties. So we continue in the human kingdom too. Majority human beings, I would say 99%, really operate at the individual level because they can only think about themselves, their own well-being. Perhaps a little bit more broad-minded, they might say, oh, me and my partner, or perhaps me and my family, or me and my community, and so on. But this idea is that in the process of evolution, individualism has to be in a way displaced or replaced with collectivism, because this is in a way reflecting your true nature, not as an individual body with mind, body, and so on, but linking with the greater humanity, the greater world. And this particular transition is a natural evolutionary process. It cannot be forced. So you see, majority of societies today is often say me and mine, me and mine. This is the philosophy of modern society. Fair enough. But we are saying as we mature, as we grow in maturity, this idea automatically will be, kind of left behind with the idea of, more collective vision. So looking not for my personal good, for the collective good. And this, if you like, is the natural process of evolution. And humanity, in a way, is reflecting this transition. We can see that societies also are maturing very fast. A few hundred years ago, it was really me and my country and nationalism. Now it is becoming much more internationalism. So this idea is naturally gathering pace because it's showing a maturing humanity.
Excellent.
Hmm. Um, the only thing I can think of that is, I do believe humans in the past have always tied in small groups, tribes, and stuff, villages or city. Well, yeah, cities, and even in America, um, people were more associated with their city or their town or city first than their state over the federal government. Because again, the federal government's so far away, so distant, you have to maybe take 10 days to get over there or something like that. Communications was terrible. Now, it's very interesting. He says that we're becoming more of a globalistic, and I do believe that. But it's dealing with technology. So technology is what helped us communicate a lot better together, and maybe that's the reason why we're becoming more globalist as opposed to nationalistic, because we're starting to see one another through TV, through the internet, through the news. But yes, we're starting to see each other through the news, and we're getting more involved with the nations. And this is something that my friend said, and I was like, you know what, you're right. And he said, eventually everyone's gonna be mixed with everyone. There's gonna be no purebred anymore. America is the very example of that. I mean, majority of the people in America, unless they're foreigners, and what I mean by foreigners, I mean British people, German, Indian, Japanese, Filipinos, Malaysians, French, Spanish, Pakistani, Iraqi, Irani, or Arabics, whatever. If they come over here, they're more pure of blood than any one of those people that's been here for a long time, because America's pretty much all mostly interbreed. There's no purebred in America for the most part. I think I'm guessing there. Fact check me on that one. But yeah, I mean it's again, and a lot of people say America is the melting pot of the world, which is I do believe to be very true. And so this is a great example to see whether globalism works or not. It's not looking good so far, but hopefully there's hope.
And so there's the aspect of in individualism. There is the aspect of the ego, and we are social animals, right? We can't control that. We're social animals. We commune with those that are like-minded, and we experience things when we're in the collective. Even at a foot, we call it soccer in America, or if it's football in London, that is a collective state of consciousness as well. And but is there any place for, say, free thinking or free thought?
You see,
Is there any place for free thinking or free? What do you mean by that? I guess it's kind of strange considering I guess in America, generally speaking, you have free thought and free thinking. You can curse the government all you want, and the government can't do anything about it. That's freedom of speech. And I'm sure. Well, I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but I'm again, I honestly don't really don't know about the rest of the world. I don't know even in my birth country. I don't know if you can. I mean, considering that my birth country is not really well communicated in a sense. There's not, how do I say that? Like you can, like if it's illegal to do something there and you do it, no one's gonna really know about it because there's news doesn't really travel. It's developing, but it doesn't have quite that link between the different places. We'll just say that. But it's weird. Is there any place for free think and free thought? That's a weird one to say. Do you not have free think and free thought?
We have to recognize that just as we have this kind of kind of a very spiritual dimension, we also have a social and a cultural dimension to our being. We cannot avoid it. So in a way, we are fashioned by the way we have been brought up, our community, our society, our families. So we begin to, in a way, unfold in the mode that suits our own social, cultural, even political, or even linking with ideas like art and music and sports and so on, which is much more perhaps a social agenda that we can reflect. That is, in a way, showing different ways of unfolding and living this kind of very egoistic approach to a much more wholesome approach whereby you link up with other human beings, whether it's in sports or whether in other activities where you feel comfortable with greater good and for the greater society. So it's a natural process. And this idea of embracing sports where you kind of join together with lots of others and you feel at one with them is a wonderful way of linking with our true dimension, which is already linked with other human beings. It's a spiritual dimension.
Mhm. But is there also a place for like free thinking, like independent thinking, critical thinking, and that sort of thing within the collective?
Ooh, oh, within the collective, now that's a different story. We can go a couple of ways. Again, when you look at extremes on either end, I don't know why I thought of the Borg from Star Trek at that moment, the collective. So yes, when you have a collective of people, you have a general idea. You don't necessarily have to agree on everything. Much like what Sadhguru was talking about in that speech, is that you have a collective idea for what standing up for the flag. The collective idea is to respect the flag, not the government, but the idea of what the flag is supposed to stand. All the good people in whatever that flag represents, everyone can agree behind that, and everyone wants to strive to make that flag to be better. And that flag represents the country that it is and the people that's in it. So if everyone can agree to make that flag the best flag ever, they have to work within their country, and they have to make their country better. Again, something that some people just don't understand. They're too smart for their own good, I guess you could say. And this is the thing that I've noticed. I guess I'm kind of like a human study, I suppose. I've noticed that people who are so intellectually smart are so dumb in terms of common sense. They've studied so much in the books they don't understand the world, whereas the people who are wise understand the world but don't understand the books. Again, these are extremes. You want a person who's very smart and also very wise. So in terms of the collective, yeah, the more extreme the collective is, the less free think and free thought you have. But you want a collective that's balanced. It's always balance. I always go back to that. It's good to have free thought and free think to be able to speak your mind, because sometimes those free thought and free thinks can come up with great ideas. But if the collective disagrees upon that, and it's an extreme one, you could be kicked out of the collective. And this is where we go look at political parties, where the extreme left or extreme right has this collective idea that you must follow them or you're not part of the group.
Indeed, you see, look, this is the whole idea, because we are always told, again, you see, the thing is, people, my mentor Vivekananda said something very powerful. He said, the word free will is a contradiction in terms, because free means, see, free will cannot be free because will is always linked with some individual, whether it's a group or individual. So there is never free will. It's just, if you like, a misuse of language. Free will is a contradiction in terms.
Ooh. So the free will portion, I talked about in another video where people there are some people out there who believe we do not have any free will at all, and there's some people out there that do believe we have free will, and there are some people out there who believe we're a little bit of both, which is what I want to believe. And how you get the no free will is the fact that everything in our lives has programmed us to do certain things. For example, chocolate or vanilla. If you tasted chocolate, you're like, oh crap, I want chocolate all the time. So you're always going to pick chocolate. But then all of a sudden you think, oh well, since you think I'm going to pick chocolate, I pick vanilla. Well, that's the reason why you picked vanilla, is because you wanted to change your course, or it was already determined. It wasn't the free will; it's the fact that you're going against what you were going to pick in the first place. I'm sure that's confusing, but let's continue.
So in a way, what is happening is this: at every instant of time, every living thing, not just human beings, every living thing somehow feels it has got free will. It feels it's trying to, in a way, exhibit its freeness by trying to exhibit a free. If we didn't do it, we all become artificial intelligence. We just become computers. So this shows us the difference between computers and human beings. Precisely this idea that we got something that the computer doesn't have. This idea that we have a free will, even though we are fully aware that we are fashioned by nature and nurture, and this idea of free will is a contradiction in terms. But this is the beauty of this kind of very deep tradition that I come from. It says this: look. He said the fact that you feel you are bound, you are limited, in the way you have been brought up, your nature is curtailing you, shackling you. That, my friend, said the deeper vision is an illusion. It's not really true. You just feel that it's an appearance. In the same, in the world of appearance, you also have this appearance that you got free will. Yahoo! I must kind of do my own thing. So it's in a way kind of countering this one appearance with another appearance. You say, but why should we bother? Because the thing is, if we feel we are stuck with this appearance, we need to break free truly. And that is, in a way, the beginning of your spiritual journey. So trying to break free and recognizing it's impossible, and then, in a way, looking deeper and say, look, actually, I was always free. So this is the resolution.
Wow.
Wait. Did he say that we don't have free will, or that we do have free will? I mean, he speaks kind of fast. I'm sorry.
The appearance that you got free will. Yahoo! I must kind of do my own thing. So it's in a way kind of countering this one appearance with another appearance. You say, but why should we bother? Because the thing is, if we feel we are stuck with this appearance, we need to break free truly. And that is, in a way, the beginning of your spiritual journey. So trying to break free and recognizing it's impossible. And then, in a way, looking deeper and say, look, actually, I was always free. So this is the resolution.
Wow, that's incredible.
So he does believe in free will, yet it says it's an illusion. It's really weird. Again, I go along the lines of the fact that we are still instinctual in nature as well, because there are certain things that you would not necessarily do, but you instinctually act upon it. So we are both have free will to a degree, and we also are instinctual, which is not something that we do freely. We just act upon it because of our animalistic nature, because we are still animals. I do believe we evolved from animals. We are part of the animal kingdom, and we still have some of our instinctual nature.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate that answer either. It was an excellent answer, but there is going back to the philosophical conundrums that we deal with in terms of free will and determinism, nature and nurture. There is that reality that there is nature and nurture, and from the dharmic perspective, there's past lives and karma to contend with, that samskaras and vasanas and stuff like that. And so the notion of free will is, as you said, it's quite illusory, and yet there's something to consciousness and intuition there as well that's compatible with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so from what he said, he seemed to understand it a lot better than I did. So is he saying basically along the lines that it's somewhere in the middle where we do have free will, but we're also bound by certain aspects of our nature?
And so while we might think that we are freely thinking or free thinkers, the reality is that we're accumulating all of this perspective and knowledge and information from all of these, from our environment, basically, and it impacts us biologically at the level of the brain. So absolutely fascinating.
Can I just cut in here, because this is an interesting thing for us to really invoke in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of issues with which we suffer. For example, you've got anger and frustration and jealousy and lust and greed and gluttony and all this. If we really take into account this idea of reincarnation, it gives us a better handle in understanding our own human condition, why we are as we are. Because if you don't have this kind of continuity of reincarnation, saying that I've come from a different trajectory where anger and frustration were kind of my day-to-day of life. So if they continue to infect me in my human kingdom, if you begin to, even for example, the idea of lust, it's the way people worry and say, Mr. Lakhani, I'm very lustful and I'm losing my spiritual. I say, look, my friend, recognize your trajectory. Over billions of years, you've been attracted to other gender. It has been ingrained in your psychology, in your mental mode, as well as in your physical being. So in a way, it's going to, in a way, immediately kick in when you're in the human kingdom. So once you recognize that this is a baggage that you're carrying from your animal for 3 billion years, you've been attracted to other gender. So it is a baggage that you've been carrying forward. Once you recognize it, you can rise above it. But if you don't recognize it, oh, I'm lustful, I'm horrible, I'm sinful, and you destroy your journey. It is this knowledge that reincarnation gives this fantastic handle on why we are as we are. In a way, it allows us to rise above our limitation. What is considered to be sinful is seen as, if you like, an unwanted baggage that we collected over billions of years. All of us come with so much baggage. And it is necessary for us to rise above and say, yeah, I know I was in the animal kingdom where killing or we kill was the natural law of nature, and in a way I'm exhibiting this through idea of competition and jealousy and anger and so on. So in a way it's nice to tackle our human condition, address the human condition by recognizing our if you like the history, a long history, not just this lifetime, many lifetimes through the animal kingdom too. And this maturity can only be incorporated in the modern psychology if we recognize the importance of reincarnation. Unfortunately, the Western world is not prepared to go down that line, but so be it.
Right. Well, let's get into reincarnation a little bit. I haven't discussed it yet, and so this is a great opportunity to actually talk about it. So with regards to reincarnation, the way that my mind has concluded that reincarnation seems to be what's going on is there's a couple of different factors from my angle. While I, as an individual, I've never experienced any past lives, so that's not in my experience. So I've sort of looked at this more so logically than anything else. And that is to say, if there's intelligence at the heart of the universe, which I definitely perceive that there is, many people perceive that there's intelligence at the heart of the universe, and that there is something that's going on. I know in Dharma we just say that everything is. And, I think that that's a great answer, but still the mind is curious. Yes, everything just is what it is, but there are various processes that are going on. And it seems to be meaningful. It seems to be purposeful. There seems to be an intelligent design, if you will. And so if that is the case, when we look at certain facts like evolution, we sort of began in this. So if there is evolution that's taking place, it makes sense that it's not just physical organisms that are evolving, but the metaphysical souls or spirits, the spiritual aspect is also evolving. And we can see a practical, social, spiritual evolution over time as well. And so I think that evolution for me is one of the key factors that points towards reincarnation. I think that the first law, and you're a physicist, maybe you can touch on this as well. The first law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but only changes form. That is also indicating reincarnation. And then there's a cyclical aspect of reality. That everything that is born must die, and then it is reborn. Spring follows winter every season. And so I feel that these are all indicators for reincarnation. What are your thoughts?
Okay, look, reincarnation is such an important issue that we must, in a way, incorporate. You see, the Western world was, believers in reincarnation. It's only this idea that came with Christianity, where they say, okay, there was a meeting of cardinals or whatever, and they said, just by one vote or something, they decided to kick out reincarnation, bring the idea of heaven and hell. In a way, I think it's a carrot and stick argument to try and keep their devotees in line, which is understandable. We all use all these kind of ploys. But then reincarnation was kicked out. Reincarnation, in a way, holds resolution to so many issues, psychological issues, phobias, prodigies. Also, it incorporates ideas of, for example, some of the kind of things that are, we are fixated on. It tells us why we are fixated, why we have this tremendous kind of, weirdness sometimes that we exhibit ourselves. In a way, it gives us a better handle on our being. So it is important for us to recognize its existence. We don't have to go into great depth. And again, there's so much research taking place on reincarnation, which shows this is not just an airy-fairy idea. It has solid foundation. And if there's even one case where two lives are shown to be strongly intertwined without any genetic link, the science probably has to respond. How are they connected? And they've not given any response whatsoever. So reincarnation sits on the backwaters, but it's a pity it should come in the front. But in a way, to resolve a lot of it, even for example, the issue of gay people, it is better resolved through the idea of reincarnation, saying that you are switching genders. So it's got to mix, your body and mind are disjointed. So you only got a female body, you attract to females because in the past life you're male. So in a way, it gives you a better handle on your condition and gives you greater dignity and a handle on your own, progress. It's one other thing I must bring in.
And that, well, I think scientists say that you're hormonal as well because your hormones has affects you in some way. But I guess I understand where it's coming from, and it would actually explain a lot of things. Because I mean, I feel that's kind of like almost like a fate-based thing because they. This is something I've heard from religious people. It's like, well, it's in the past. Don't worry about it. Don't try to explain it. Just say it's the past. It's the past. But I can't just accept that. But I understand where it's coming from, and it would make some sense. Do I believe in reincarnation? No, I don't. So I try to understand it in a different way. But to explain gay people or whatever, just whatever kind of people, whatever issues or whatever they like or dislike or whatever they're afraid of. The way I think of it is like I do believe they did experiments on babies and they scared them and like scaring them from using puppies or clowns. It was like a terrible experiment that was done on them, and they grew up fearing puppies and clowns because they train when they introduced a puppy or a clown, they would harm the baby, and then when you'd remove the puppy or clown, they would stop harming the baby. So this baby got a development psychologically that whenever they see a puppy or a clown, they develop they feel pain, and that becomes ingrained in their mind. And that kind of happens with a lot of people now with who has like a phobia or fear of whatever it may be. Now, to say about people like who has arachnophobia who may have not experienced that now, that's a bit more difficult to explain. And say gay people, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, that's all chemical and wiring in our brain. That I don't know. I've not heard very much about the explanation for that, but it's again irrelevant in my point, in my opinion. Because look, as long as you're not causing any harm to anyone else, and the person that you love loves you back, then by all means.
You see, when Richard Dawkins was asked, what is the aim of life? It's very interesting. And of course, he'll say, eat, drink, and reproduce. This is it. Reproduction, he says, is the main thing. When we look at the story of evolution, the driving force, since the creation started, life came on Earth about 3 billion years ago, the driving force has been to multiply and continue life force. So in a way, the thing that is unfolding through the, Big Bang theory, etc., the thing that's unfolding is trying to get a better expression through reproduction. So reproduction is not something to be vilified. To recognize the very power which is driving the creation is in a way showing itself in the human kingdom as tremendous attraction for reproducing. There's something that is, take on this living form must continue. This is the whole idea. And another thing that comes across, I haven't touched it, but I think I might as well just touch on it. One of the biggest issues in modern physics is this idea of why the universe keeps expanding. Why? And of course, this is a major issue. And as they say, they will call it dark energy. That's pulling everything apart. Dark means we have no clue what we are talking about simply in physics. So dark energy is pulling us apart. The real resolution to this issue of dark energy is not in the physical realm, it is in the metaphysical realm. The very thing that unfolded as creation is in a way reflecting this metaphysical dimension by saying that this thing is not physical, so you won't find energy, dark energy, because it's called dark. You have no clue what you're talking about, because it's a metaphysical phenomena which is allowing the universe to expand. This idea of incorporating metaphysics into physics is crucial requirement for modern quantum mechanics and modern cosmology to progress further. So I have digressed quite a lot. I love to talk about stuff like this. Anyway, I give it to you now.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah, that stuff, metaphysical stuff. I don't know. That's way beyond what I've researched in my life. But it's really my only explanation about the Big Bang is the sheer fact that it was in fact the Big Bang, and And there's no gravity in space. There's no friction. Let me repeat that. Rephrase that. There's no friction in space. So that's the reason for the expanse. That's about it. Although some people said that the galaxy is slowing down in its expansion. So, and this goes back to, I think, of Sadhguru about the 84 Big Bangs. Because what if we're on the 80? What if we're on the 84 Big Bangs right now? This is the 84th Big Bang. Once the universe contracts again and then explodes, we're in the 85th. Just makes you wonder, maybe if the universe has exploded many times to recreate everything in the universe, and how many times humans were created in those 84 Big Bangs, or whatever alien species in the past that has advanced in technology, but you end up getting crumpled when the universe collapsed on itself to explode again to recreate the universe, kind of like Thanos did the snap.
No, I think that's absolutely interesting as well. I mean, the nature of reality. I mean, if you're not baffled by it and interested in it, I mean, I don't know where you are. But I mean, there's plenty of people who aren't interested too. I don't mean it that way, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that reality is absolutely mind-boggling, to
Yeah.
say the least, and so it's definitely interesting to discuss it. But yeah, in terms of the going back to reincarnation, the whole one life thing. If there is divine intelligence, I never could understand what the point of one life would be. Like, what perspective are you going to gain? We talked about nature and nurture. Nature and nurture definitely can make a person perceive reality in a certain way and not be able to think outside of the box. And same thing with habits and addictions and shortcomings that are limited to that finite individual. There's so many different limitations to an individual life that there's not much that can be accomplished. There's not much that can be learned or gained in terms of perspective and lessons learned and growth and evolution. And so I never understood the point of, if there is divine intelligence, why there would be only one life and then you're judged, right? That never made sense to me. And the whole idea of evolution, that souls are evolving, that energy is neither created nor destroyed but only changes form, and the cyclical aspect have convinced me that reincarnation looks to be our scenario. And evolution is continuing. Reincarnation is continuous. The cyclical nature is obviously a continuous thing. And so, and you brought up some of the research that's being done with, and I think that's primarily with Ian Stevenson, right?
Yes.
So the little kids and stuff like that who report past lives. So I think that all of that is absolutely fascinating, and it makes sense. It makes sense for sure.
Oh, well, let me comment on that. One life. Why is it bothersome to think that you only have one life? The way I look at reincarnation, I suppose I can believe it in this way, that the 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 material body gets recycled. I mean, I'm gonna die and then I get buried in the ground. The plant's gonna eat me. Animals are gonna eat me. Animals gonna poop me out, and plants gonna eat the poop. Plants turn poop into fruit and vegetables, or grass will grow, and cows will eat that, and humans or animals will eat the fruit. It's just a cyclical thing. Yeah, absolutely, I can agree with that. We this Earth is constantly recycling itself. Hopefully indefinitely, but who knows? And to say that one life, well, what's the point of one life? Well, there doesn't have to be a point. Sadhguru explains it quite wonderfully. Is the fact that the point of outside of the survival aspects, just to have fun, to live life however you see fit. I mean, if you want to just go skydiving for the rest of your life, by all means, you just have to pay for it. But to enjoy life, live life, really. And that's amazingly, we're alive, but we're not living life because we're just so busy tied up into this world about when we're going to pay the next bill, which some people can't help. Even the rich people are unhappy, taking drugs to be happy. It's kind of weird and crazy. But this evolution, it's a cumulative thing. It's kind of like, I guess you can say, this karma, very similar to karma, where the knowledge that we've obtained from the past in terms of our ancestors has been passed down from generation to generation, and it's something that the current generation builds upon, builds onto, adds to it to pass on to the next generation, to the next generation, and to the next generation. So we're constantly evolving forward, even though we only have one life. And what we can do is contribute in some way, hopefully contribute positively to that evolution, and however way or form that may be. But even if you don't contribute to it, you contribute. Everyone's contributing in some way, even if you just die, which is don't, or by reproducing, your children will contribute to it. By You'll contribute to it regardless whether you want to or not.
All right, so we'll go ahead and jump into another question. Perhaps we'll start with the role of scriptures, because that's one that comes up a lot in terms of my conversations with people in general, whether they're Hindus or people of other religions. So in Hinduism, you have the itihas, you have philosophy, and then you have mythology. Is that safe to say?
Yes.
So now, when it comes to itihas, what we're talking about is history, that there were historical events and stuff like that. Which is fine, but there's some difficulty in trying to decipher for a lot of individuals what is historical and what is mythical. So, for example, the birth of Lord Krishna, where Hansa says to Devaki that he's going to kill all of the kids, and then the eighth kid is going to kill him, and that type of deal is supposed to kill him, and so he's trying to avoid that. I mean, when you try to think about how that practically would take place in the real world, it seems mythical, right? So, but then there are some who, and you've said this in some of your lectures, who are very adamant that these are historical events. So, how do you approach that, Jay Lakhani ji?
Look, it's a very important thing for us to explore, because the Hindus themselves struggle and are getting it wrong. At the moment, they're getting it seriously wrong. They can't distinguish literal truth from mythological or like add-ons. Let me tell you. The two scriptures we say have a historic foundation. We claim to have a historic foundation or basis are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Fair enough. We call them Itihas, means it has got historic foundation. But let me immediately throw in a health warning. For the first few thousand years, these particular stories were not written down. They were passed on as an oral tradition from word of mouth. And every time a storyteller tells a story, there is always a tendency, even if we are very sincere, there's a tendency to add on a little bit and take off a little bit, because this doesn't seem right. So we kind of, in a way, produce a very more kind of sanitized version of what actually happened. So we do the sanitization, and also we might add on a bit of exaggeration to kind of show you the power of that individual or that personality. So lots of addition and subtractions have taken place even in the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata. And it's very clear, when you look at some of the stories, you say, come on, this can't have happened. This is not possible, physically possible. So you can immediately, the only thing we have to say is this. This is from Adi Shankar, beautiful thing. He says, start with a Shruti, means some kind of scripture to start your spiritual journey or religious journey. Shruti is important. But then he says, use yukti, use your common sense to think, say, or try to suss out whether what is being presented is rationally founded. It is consistent. If you find that it doesn't agree with your yukti, your intellect or your rational faculties, then according to Adi Shankar, according to me, please don't absorb it. Recognize it as an exaggeration or a more sanitary, much more simplistic vision deliberately. There are a lot of issues. When I look at the story Rama and Krishna, I just give one example, just to not to make it too heavy-handed. I mean, you see this image of Ram and Krishna, in the battlefield and all that, so clean shaven with golden ornaments, all that. They don't go in the battle with golden ornaments and all that, and forget about that. I mean, I asked the people, look, suppose Ram and Sita were in the jungles for 14 years, whatever. Do you think they had some special laundry people who came in and give them silk clothes, laundered, properly perfect laundered, and they're wearing all these ornaments, and come on, and they're sheer, they're no beard, they're sheer, well, clean shaved. Of course, they could buy you the razors from the local chemist shop. So I make light of this thing, but the important thing is we must recognize that over thousands of years, these stories have been told and retold so many times. A lot of exaggerations, a lot of things have been kicked out because it didn't seem right for the particular community at a particular historic period. So they've been wiped out.
Before it continues on, this goes along the lines like I like the King Arthur legend, and I know the fictitious legend, and I have a movie that's supposedly based on the true King Arthur, and there's been people that say that King Arthur is an amalgamation of different people. So I don't know what the truth is, but the one thing that I think that's true is the fact that there may have been a King Arthur, or there may have been the King Arthur legend itself is stories of multiple people that done good deeds. So while the stories themselves may not be true, they're probably based on some truth and some historical facts, but the problem is the fact that what is true and what is not. So that's what I think of whenever he was saying that, like, yeah, everything's been passed over word of mouth because they didn't know how to write, and there's really nothing to write on. You start carving on stone or whatever, and so everything's been passed over word of mouth, and then some people forget, like, it's like, oh, I don't know what that part goes. Let me just add something to that, and then it just devolves into what potentially was 100% real to now becoming quite fictional.
So even the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which have got history, we agree has history because it's such a powerful story. It's got a historic basis to, not just pure made up. But please be aware of limitation. And these are the limitations. I'll just give you one funny example. The story of Ramayana in India, a great intellectual told Mr. Lakhani, there are 100 versions of Ramayana in India. It's 100 versions? Yes, he said, as they've been evolving, they've got different branches. And in one of the stories, Ram and Sita are brother and sister. Now, how do you deal with that? It's with great difficulty. Anyway, so we have this issue. The other issue is this. Mythology must be recognized. It's called Puran. They're literally they're screaming in your face. It's Puran. It's nice, colorful narrative to present very subtle ideas in a colorful, digestible manner, suited for an average person. Perfectly fine. They fulfill a function. But once you recognize them for what they are, then you can rise above it, and somebody comes and challenges you. Look, my friend, I said mythology, just calm down. See, it's a kind of story format of presenting good ideas, and it has helped humanity and Hindus for thousands of years. Don't go and kick it out. So it has got a value, but sometimes I'm very rough. I say suitable for the special Purans are suitable for the very young who are sucking the thumb. Yeah, I love new stories. And for the very old who have got no more time for rationalizing, they just want to sit and chew cud. So for the very old and the very young, this Puran may be okay, but for the thinking youngster, they must pull the thumb out and think more rationally. And fortunately, I'm being very frank, my own community is very poor. They are weaned on the Purans, they live in the Purans and die in the Purans, and they can't say anything beyond. They have no clue about the philosophy of Hinduism. And I'm struggling to switch attention from the mythology, Purans, to the ideas of philosophy of Hinduism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of speaks to the different temperaments in the world, right? Different people appeal to different things for their own purpose and growth. I mean, I feel that humanity wouldn't be the same without storytelling. I mean, we even have movies and films and books and things today, and these stories they intrigue us, they inspire us, they give us lessons, right?
And speaking about that, sometimes the movies and stories that are written of the time are telling of the time. Because obviously we tend to add a little bit of what's going on in our lives in the stories that we write, or whoever writes stories, they add their struggles, or the societal struggles, or the people's struggles, or what's going on in the world. But it's all, of course, you have to be able to read between the lines for that. And then you go like 100 or 1,000 years into the future and you grab this movie. It's like, oh, this must be a historical fact, It's like, oh man, they had flying planes back in the day or something. So, and even the stories that are happening during the times are a bit exaggerated sometimes too. And then unless you look at documentaries, and then that's the thing about like going like maybe 100 years, 100,000 years into the future, that you don't know which movie's a documentary, which one's an action film, which one's a comedy. They, especially considering the fact that they all look like they've been told the same way roughly.
And I mean, I think if we get out of the logical mind and just read the story and appreciate the lessons and see if there's anything esoteric in terms of your own experience that you can relate to, I think that's the most important thing, and we wouldn't be the same without that.
Mm-hmm.
No, Paranji, you raised a very important point, because sometimes we like to, in a way, I'm very careful. You don't vilify the idea of mythology. Mythology is a narrative used to carry forward important ideas, make it digestible, accessible in a way, engage us. So it's a wonderful thing. So mythology is not something that is to be undermined, but you must recognize its limitation. I'll tell you funny. For example, when I started my classes in Hinduism, I used to teach my daughter all the colorful, lovely stories, and those children used to laugh and jump about, and they enjoyed it. When we tried the same experiment a few years back, we failed miserably. Because the little kids who come to our classes said, well, we'd rather go for Star Wars and X-Men and all this Superman. The same story, same is modern mythology. So in a way, modern mythology is still in vogue, very famous, very popular, and so it should be. I'm not saying undermine it. We play with Star Wars and we love these characters and adventure and standing up for good and so on. So it's modern mythology. So we have moved on from ancient mythology to modern mythology. But again, another thing I must mention. As a physicist, people don't recognize modern physics, or physics itself, the physical of most physical sciences, is also using a narrative. You say, no, yes, it is narrative. When we started the journey of physics, we think that, we have sorted everything out, we could prove it. You don't prove anything. You basically just get rules of thumbs that allow you to get a better grasp of reality, and in a way, kind of allow you to kind of have a better handle on how things will unfold. That's all you do. Now, in physics, I'll tell you one simple example I repeatedly use in my talk. I say, look, when Newton was around, he said, it's very easy. It's called law of gravitation. Lump of matter here, and a little tiny little lump of matter here. They are attracted by each other, and say, we love each other, very good. And the amount of attraction depends on the masses of both of them. So a heavy one, lot of attraction. And a little tiny one, little attraction. And then the distance is very important. If they're nearby, there's loud or lovey-dovey. If they're far away, the lovey-dovey stops. Fair enough. This is called Newton's law of gravitation. So, a simple question is, how does one lump of matter know how much the other one weighs? Does he go with a scale and say, okay, I'll be attracted to this much? So it's very difficult to, in a way, but now we know this. It's actually, sorry about this. Now it's easy for us to recognize it as a kind of a myth we use to explain this attraction between lumps of matter. And we soon find Einstein coming and displacing this Newtonian idea. That was a narrative whose sell-by date is gone. So we come with a new narrative of space and time curvature, explaining the idea of how you have this attraction. So in science too is a narrative, and we must recognize it for what it is.
Right.
The only thing is the scientists themselves, the only good thing was they are prepared to say it's an evolving narrative, evolving, open to evolution. So the moment Einstein came along, Newton was kicked out in 2 ticks. No big deal. Because we see we moved on. This is the beauty of modern physics, because physics is a narrative too. It's an evolving narrative. That's the big difference.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. All right. So in terms of where I want to touch on the future a little bit. I know that we're speculating here, but what do you see, and perhaps what did Swami Vivekananda see the future of humanity being in terms of our practical? Now, here's the thing: there's a spiritual aspect of it, and then there's the practical aspect of it, right? Technology. I mean, we have these computers and iPhones and stuff like that, and I think it's Moore's law, they call it, that technology increases every 18 months or doubles. And so we're going to see certain technologies that are absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know if you've seen the Microsoft HoloLens, where you have all of these holograms and stuff like that. And so there's all these, and then there's this EEG machine, the EEG device that you can put on your skull. And if it's connected to something like electronic, you can simply
Think.
manage it through your thoughts and the EEG device. So these are, in a sense, these siddhis, if you will, are unfolding in our evolution in terms of the possibilities. So in terms of Swami Vivekananda or your own insights, what do you anticipate some of the future will look like?
Very positive. For example, the first thing is this: look, the recent technological advances we've got on the internet and social media is something far superior than the printing press, that really brought about major revolution.
Sorry, I can't help what I ever said. Yes, it is definitely far superior, and it is a tool that we all use. But my gosh, because everyone has access to it, anyone can say anything practically. And boy, has that been used for that kind of stuff. It's information overload, and as well as you having to sift through so many information to find out what is the truth and what is a lie. who's pushing our narrative and who's not. It's just it went nuts. But at least I guess the positive side you can look at that's whoever has a printing press would normally have the only word out to the public. With now anyone, like, it sucks that you're only following one narrative. So basically, if there's only one newspaper company in your city, they basically printed out whatever everyone needed to hear. No one else can say anything because that's the only printing press. So you're kind of stuck with the bias of whatever that newspaper company has. Now everyone is technically a newspaper company, and now you have to sift through all this millions of tweets and whatever. It's like we went from one extreme to the other.
So now what he's showing is immediate interconnectedness with the whole world instantaneously. It's incredible. So what has happened is modern technology is in a way reflecting the deeper link we have with other human beings, and it requires this technology for us to instantaneously pass on good ideas or potent ideas across the world instantaneously with very little kind of other equipment, with little tiny little mobile phone and so on. So it is in a way reflecting a positive direction. Not, of course, it comes with a negative side. It can be misused as well. But the thing is, humanity finds these new tools. This is a major new discovery, which is in a way showing the link that is already within the whole of the living kingdom, but now at a material level. So I can communicate with you, you can talk to me, I can talk to you thousands of miles away instantaneously, and this can be sent to all over the world. So modern technology is in a way reflecting the underpinning link we have with the greater world, the greater humanity, and in a way it is a positive step. One question that arises is this: the Hindu tradition says we believe in cycles, cycle of creation and cycle of destruction, and everything comes to a crunch. Everything is crunched up. And people ask Mr. Lakhani, all these billions of living things and even 7 billion human beings, what will happen to them? Because they are not achieved moksha, they are still wondering about, I want chocolate cake, I want cheese after that and this. So what will happen to them when there's big crunch? I say nothing will happen. They were never here anyway. So when the big crunch comes, they are never here. So they don't get lost or something, lost in space something. They are basically not here, and their oneness with the true nature becomes automatic. So they don't need to make the effort of getting moksha. They get it straight away because this thing has been dissolved. The external expression has been dissolved. So, but it's an interesting thing. Accordingly, I'm an optimist by heart. I can't help it. Same was Swami Vivekananda, always an optimist. Tremendous faith, not in a God in heaven, but faith in humanity. And I'm the same. I'm no Vivekananda, by the way, but tremendous faith in humanity. And I'm struggling with my own Hindu group because they are kind of messed up tremendously with all these false gurus and all that. So I'm struggling with my own fold. But the thing is, tremendous love and tremendous faith that they will find a way. They'll start stirring up. They'll go in a scenic route, but they'll find a way.
Okay, so I'll pause it right there with that word on there. Let me just continue on.
So yeah.
Well, that word is not going
that kind of opens up 2 other questions that.
Okay, we'll end right there. All right, so yeah, I was going to say, he's a bit of an optimist to say this is all positive. It is and isn't. Again, the internet, the Twitters, the whatever communication, electronic device, digital software, and all that is all merely tools for us to use, and it's up to us whether we use that for good or for bad. You cannot blame Twitter, you cannot blame whatever. I mean, you have to blame the people behind this stuff because they're the one that's posting it, blocking it, permitting it, whatever it. But interesting. Okay, so that's going to be part 1 just because there's 30 minutes left and it's already an hour in. So, conversation with Jay Lakhani on free will, cults, gurus, reincarnation. So far, they touched up on all of that but the cults part. Well, he did touch up the reincarnation, free will, gurus kind of a little bit. I guess maybe the next portion is going to be more into gurus and cults. I'm not sure. But anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.